On this week's live stream, Connor shows you how to add new levels to a road-ragey new Scratch parking game. Mr. T shows off a fancy new RPG inventory system. We delve into a Chrome add-on that puts Scratch on steroids. Ben dusts off his old Xbox 360 to show you some of the iconic games from his childhood. And Thane takes a first look at the long-awaited Minecraft 1.17 update. All this and more coming up on the Chromeworks Club live stream. Hey, and welcome back. It's Mr. Tomek here with the live stream for Saturday, June 12th. Welcome, everybody. So, as you've seen, I hope you guys like our new intro format. I just started that last week, and I'm quite excited to do something a little more professional looking at the beginning of my stream. So we've got some interesting stuff lined up for you today, and I'm really excited to get to it. Let's get started with our feature broadcast here. So Connor, you guys have met, is one of my Chromeworks co-op students, and every week he's been producing some fun content for me. I saw this really nice fun game called Parking Simulator that was just blowing up on Scratch a couple of weeks ago. It has over 200,000 views. It was developed based off of a tutorial by Griffpatch, who you might remember is one of probably the most famous of all Scratchers. He's the creator of Paper Minecraft, which is the highest the most viewed Scratch game of all time, I think. And he's produced a whole bunch of other stuff, and he's producing tutorials now on YouTube. So he did a tutorial on how to do a driving game, and the maker of this parking simulator game, let me show it to you right now. Tiber3333 made this game that based on this tutorial, and it's actually a really fun little game. So Connor's going to tell you all about it right now. So let me get right to it.
Hello and welcome to the Remix Corner, a new segment where we take a look at popular Scratch games and we find ways to amp up the fun. So this episode we'll be looking at Parking Simulator, made by Tiber, and as you can see it is very popular. So how the game works is you are just driving a car and you try and park at the bottom right corner, and obviously avoid all obstacles and don't try and hit anything. As you can see, the arrow on the car moves as you're pressing the buttons, and when you move, the car will also move, but when you stop pressing the button, like when you let go, the car will keep moving. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to add more levels to this game. First thing you're going to want to do is go to Obstacles and Costumes, and as you can see here, you can see all the different obstacles that there are. You have the oil can, garbage, cone, all the different types of cars, and what you can do is go over it, select it, and you can copy, and you can go to the other obstacles sprite. This is where the levels are placed. As you can see, there are a total of 7 levels, each one of them being different. So let's duplicate the second one here, and as you can see, it's labeled as 8, but we want it as 3. So if we try and name it 3, it'll go back to 8 because Scratch doesn't let you name costumes the same name. So what we have to do is kind of go to the bottom to the top. I'm actually going to name this 9 for now. But this is going to be 7. This is going to be 6. 5. 4. And then you can change this to 3. The reason why I had this to 9, because this was still 8. And we can't have two 8s. But now I can go back and change it to 8. And as you can see, we have all the numbers here. Now that that's all done, you can go to your level and start customizing it to your liking. For designing your own levels, it's pretty easy. All you're doing is copying and pasting certain obstacles, either from the obstacle sprite or just obstacles that are already on there, like what I'm doing with the oil cans. Alright, I'm going to do one more example. So I'm going to go to 6, right click, duplicate. As you see, it says 9 here. I'm going to change this to 10 for now. Go back to the last here, change to 9, change to 8, then you can change this back to 7. Let's say I wanted one of these blocks here, and since they're not in the obstacles sprites, you can hover over. You have to be very precise, but you can hover over and copy it just like this. Once you're done making your levels, you're going to want to go back to the code and go to the house piece. And what this code does is it hides the house piece for every level except for the 7th level, which was the last level, but now it is 9, so you're going to want to change it to 9. So if level equals 9, then the house piece will show. And we're going to want to go to the parking spot. And all this code here, we're going to want to go to the bottom. So if level equals 7, then hide. So the parking spot won't show up anything past 7 or on 7, which would make sense if the last level was 7, because you don't want a parking spot on the last level. So just change this to 9. So now if level equals 9, then it'll hide. So the parking spot will now show for levels 7 and 8 and not for 9. On level 9 it'll hide. And that's pretty much it. The only thing you're going to want to do is playtest and see if the levels are actually possible, because you don't want an impossible level. So make sure you playtest, and that'll be it. Make sure you check out the Chromeworks YouTube channel for more Scratch content. Thanks.
Whoops. Sorry about that, guys. My audio is turned off. All right. Anyway, I was just going to show you that this game is quite. I was saying it's quite realistic, and like as someone who's driven a real car, the physics feel fairly close to what it would feel like driving a real car. So a really great little piece of coding here. So congratulations to Tiber3333 and of course to Griff Patch, all hail Griff Patch, for coming up with this fantastic game. So we're into week 5 of our Minecraft Tower Defense game, and this week in our tutorial, which was going to be released at 11 o'clock, we're getting pretty close to the end of the game, so we're kind of teasing this as the beginning of the end for this game. So this is going to end up being a 6-part series, and at the end of that, Yeah, so 6 parts, and so this week we're going to add Endermen who have ladders that they can construct that will allow you to climb over, or allow the zombies to climb over the walls that you've constructed, and they're pretty vicious. They have 6 hit points as well, so they're going to be a little challenging. And we're going to set the stage for the end portal. So we're going to put an end portal here that you can click on that will take you to the end dimension. Next week, the Ender Dragon, which is a whole new level of complexity here. So we're going to save the last episode just for implementing the Ender Dragon, and there's quite a bit of code to him. So that's what we can look forward to in the next couple of weeks. Meanwhile, Ben, our co-op student, is hard at work on the first part of what's going to look like a 3-part video series on some Super Smash Brothers. I've just had a look at the finished game, and it's looking fantastic. So that will be coming up 2 weeks from now on the Chromeworks live stream. We'll be debuting it, and it'll be available to play at that point. So you can look forward to that. Well, let's see who's with us today. Over on YouTube, we have a big genius, otherwise formerly known as Supreme Commander. And he's from Ottawa, I believe. If there's anyone else lurking in chat, please say hello. Tell us how old you are and where you live, and we'll give you a little shout out on the stream. Meanwhile, over on Discord, we've got Gamer Davey. Good morning, Davey. And we've got Kendra. Good morning, Kendra. And we've got Kian.
Hi.
Hi, Kendra. And we've got Kian. So Davey, Kendra, and Kian are all from Ottawa. And meanwhile, over in far away in Florida, we have retro gamer Thane. Thane's back with us with another Minecraft tutorial today. Whoops. Thane, are you with us, buddy?
I'm with you.
Yeah, so Thane, tell us about, I'm really excited about this week's Minecraft mod review because it's not a mod, eh? Tell us about it.
Oh, we were doing the co-op meeting and I told you about 1.17 coming out, and you said that'd be like a good Minecraft mod review or whatever. So I decided to stick with that since I didn't really know what other mods to do anyways.
Yeah, so Minecraft has just come out with a long-anticipated little update. It's the 1.17 update, and it's called Caves and Cliffs. Is that right, Thane?
Yeah, there's a lot of things to show though. So if I did the whole thing in one video, it took about 40 minutes. So this is going to be split up into parts.
Right, and so what's the gist of this? It's just a whole bunch of new additions. There's some new blocks and some new mobs and some new minerals and stuff. And
yeah.
And what's the caves and cliffs part of it? You're going to talk about that next week, I guess, eh?
Well, in today's video, I'm showing some new mobs. There's about 3 mobs. I've only shown 2 in this one though, and I'll be showing the new mining block stuff.
All right.
Yeah, and by the end it starts draining, and I'm really sorry about that.
It's all good. Okay, so that's coming up a little later on the stream. In the meantime, I have a little tutorial for you guys here today. Is anyone else joined us? Oh, no, we're still good. Anyway, yeah, I have a little tutorial for you today. It's kind of an Ask Me tutorial. I had a request earlier this week from one of our regular users, Hyperberry, who wanted to, he's in the middle of putting together an RPG game, and he wanted to have an inventory system where there were empty slots, and where every once in a while when an item was dropped, a new item would randomly appear in the next available slot that he could arm his character with. So I took that on as a personal challenge, and I've come up with a really nice little inventory system that I want to show you today, and I thought we'd take a little deep dive into the code that I used to make that. So let's get to that right now. So this is the file. It's just called inventory system. I'm going to paste it into the chat while I'm talking here. Anyway, so this isn't a full game. I'm just going to run it right now. So this is not a full game. It's just simply a stickman character standing there who we can arm with a weapon. And the idea is we can hit the space key to make him attack with whatever weapon he has in his hand. So right now he has no weapon in his hand. There we go. Now you can open up the inventory just by clicking on this blue inventory button right here. And you can close it up by clicking on the red button like this. So a nice little system here for pop-up windows. You can see that you can hover to get a little rollover effect here to show which item you're on, and you'll be able to click any weapon once it's in the inventory here. So because this isn't an actual game, I'm just simulating picking up a new item by hitting the X key on the keyboard. So watch, I'm going to hit the X key right now, and it put a spear into my inventory. And now when I click on the spear, you can see that it arms my character with it, and I can attack with it. And every time I hit the X key, it's going to pick another random weapon. I've selected 4 weapons here, and so it's going to put in the next slot, it's going to pick the next random weapon that I've come up with. There's another spear. Well, this is boring. Okay, there's a sword. And so now I click on the sword. Now I'm armed with the sword. Let's see what else we have here. Wow, it seems to like spears today. And I'm just getting the same stuff over and over again. Let's try that one more time. I'm not sure if it's just a quirk of the random number system. Spear, spear, sword, 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 axe. There's my axe. And there's a morning star or a flail in here as well. And I'm not sure if I coded something wrong, because it seems like yeah, I think I might have done one of the random numbers wrong. We'll get into the code here in a second, though, and you guys can see it. So let me just manually enter. Well, actually, so this is what the flail looks like, and you can be carrying this as well. So I just thought I'd take a little dive into the code here to show you guys how this works. I've pasted the finished file into the chat, as I said, and you guys can have a look at it as I'm coding. I have a little kind of taken apart version here that I'm going to use to kind of show you piece by piece how this project was put together. So let's get into that right now. So here's my stickman sprite, and let me just walk you through what I've done here. So there's a variable called idle, and that just determines whether he's in an idle mode or not. We want him going back and forth in his between these 2 idle animations, but we can't do a next costume because otherwise he's going to get into his fighting stance. So right now we're doing basically a repeat until his idle changes to 0. So as soon as he stops idling, when that variable changes to 0, then this loop will stop and it'll circle around and basically do nothing until idle is back to 1 again. And so this is a cool way to switch your character between different animation states. If I had it going forever through the idle state, every time I told it to do a different costume, it would revert back to here again because it's doing it forever. So the idea is you put it inside a forever loop, but then you do a repeat until with this variable, and that switches it off when that variable changes. So a really nice little coding trick here. All right, so I've got my guy attacking with the space key, and I just have him going next costume, and then attacking from there. So the first thing we do is we set idle to 0, and then we switch our costume to the. I've got 2 different stances here. One's called fight, and one's called it's called stab, right? So he's basically going to go from these to this stance to this. Now, how did I get my weapons lined up on that? It was just a matter of grabbing the weapon sprites here, and let me show one. So I basically moved them around inside the interface here until they were on top of him in his idle stance. So I just got them lined up perfectly so that when I did a go to, which is what we do here next, when I did a inside the weapon here, when I do a go to stickman, it'll land on him, but land exactly in the spot where his hand is going to be positioned here. So no matter what weapon I have, it's always going to do that. So for the different weapons, I had to do a slightly different pose. So I just went through all the different costumes and made sure that each one was aligned so that it looked like it was sitting in his hand. Now, when he goes to other poses, we have to change where that weapon is. So we're just going to tell it to move to a new location that matches where the costume number is. So as I go to a different costume, like fight here, for example, let me just stop the code. So when I go to this pose, I need to move this spear up and to the right so that it lines up to that spot. Let me show you what I did in the code here. So in the code for the weapon, I've got a bunch of if statements here, and they're basically they're all gonna be inside of the forever. So if my costume number of the stick man, so I'm looking at the stick man and I'm using one of these blocks here, that's a reporter block. You guys will be familiar with that. I just went and selected stick man, and now I can find attributes of him. So I can find his costume number. And right now we'll see that he's wearing costume number 3 because that is this costume here. So if his costume number is equal to 2, we're just going to move it over a little bit. And that's what makes the spear basically look like it's wobbling along with him. So it's trying to match his hand or whatever. Now let's add another if statement for costume 3, which you'll remember is the fight stance here. So there's the fight stance. So in order to get him aligned to that, we need to basically move him up 40. So let me show you what that looks like. Up 40, and then change his X by 20. And then we want to tilt it a little bit, so we're going to turn by 15 degrees. So if I go back to the default position here again, we'll show you that one more time. So I go up, let's stop. So if I go up 40, then across 20, and then turn 15 degrees, now I'm perfectly aligned with that. So you just got to play around with these settings until you get exactly what you need for that particular costume. And again, because all these guys are aligned, it doesn't matter which costume I'm wearing. You can see that no matter what costume I'm wearing, it'll still be perfectly aligned, even though he's in a different stance. Okay, I did the same thing for his 4th costume. So if he's wearing costume 4, I have a different set of Y and X numbers here. And the angle, every time it comes around this loop, is going to go back to 90. So the only time he's going to be at a different angle is when he's in this costume 3. And you can see the rest of them, they're all going to default to 90. All right, so we've got a little bit of code here that just makes that just initializes the weapon and gets it working properly. So over on the right here, it says set weapon to empty, and that's going to mean at the start of the game he's going to be holding no weapon at all and going through his idle, and then he's constantly going to be looking to see if this variable called weapon has been changed, and whatever we change this variable to is going to be what weapon he's carrying here. So I can actually manually simulate that if I go to set variable and I set weapon, and let's set weapon to sword. So as soon as I type in sword here and then click on it, you'll see that he's going to be carrying a sword. Let's try it with the flail. I think that's a flail. Does anyone in the chat know whether this is a flail or a morning star? I cannot remember those two, the difference between those two things, frankly. But if someone can look it up in the chat and let me know, I'd be happy to report that. All right, and again, when I hit the space key, he's going to go through this animation where he goes to fight and then to stab. And he has a little sound effect here that I just recorded myself. I recorded myself going, ha! And then speeded it up to make it sound a little more cartoonish. So let's try attacking with this weapon here. There we go. Now, if I wanted to get really fancy with this, I might have... oh, why did that not go back? Oh, there's a little bit more. At the end of the code here, we have to get him to stop saying attack, and that's why we go say blank, and we set our idle back to 1 again. And so at the end of this animation cycle, he's going to jump back to his normal idle state again. All right, so now I want to get into the actual inventory system and show you guys a little bit about how that works. So the core of the inventory system is inside this last sprite here called inventory slot. And I'm going to show that to you in a second. I've kind of disassembled the code here, but there's a few other blocks to take care of, and they're all very, very simple. So this inventory button, all it does is it shows at the beginning of the game, it shows when I close the inventory, and when I open the inventory, when I click on it, it'll hide it and then broadcast a message to the other sprites telling them to appear. So as soon as I click on this, it'll make my inventory appear. Here's the other piece that just has become visible. It's called the inventory panel. I just placed it there just manually, so it doesn't actually have a location it's being sent to. And again, it's very simple code here. We're going to, when green flag clicked, we're going to hide it. We don't want it visible at the beginning. We want it at the back layer so that the other buttons appear on top of it. And then we are going to open that up when we receive an open inventory. We're going to show it. And when I click that red button to close it, it's going to disappear. And so, again, we're going back and forth between these two buttons. Very simple. The sprite 3, again, works the same way. When I click on it, it hides everything. And when the inventory is open, it becomes visible. Okay, so most of the code is over here in the inventory slots, and let me show you a little bit about how that works. So when the green flag is clicked, let me just get my stuff aligned here properly. So when the green flag is clicked on this, we're going to hide this main sprite. Let me show it here right now. So this is the actual sprite. It's just one of the 9 squares on our screen here, right? And you can see that when I click it, it actually arms the guy with that. There's probably some code already implemented here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put down what occupies each slot of this inventory into a list. Now, if you guys have been following my Minecraft tutorial, you can see that we've been using list variables quite a bit here to keep track of complex pieces of information where things change a lot. We've been using it to keep track of X and Y variables for certain objects. And here's another example of using a list to keep track of something complicated. So let me show you the list. Right now it's empty. As soon as we get started, though, we're going to fill it up with the word empty. So I'm going to repeat a loop 9 times, and I'm going to add the word empty to that list. So now let me show you the list again, and you can see that there's 9 items on it. So as soon as I click, it generates these 9 empty slots for me. It knows to switch to a blank costume because this costume with nothing in it is actually called empty. And you'll see in a minute that we're going to use the name of the sprite to key into which of these icons is going to be visible in each slot. And also to switch the weapon that's in our guy's hand as well. Okay, so after this, we're going to start using a variable called clone ID. Now, this is a local variable. You guys will remember that we create local variables by going make a variable and click on this little button here that says for this sprite only. Now that's really important because that means that this variable is going to be different for each of the sprites. So the first time I create a clone, it's going to be set to ID 1, and the second one to ID 2, etc., etc. So the next thing we're going to do is start to fill up these slots. So we're going to do a repeat 3 times here. And inside there, we're going to change clone ID by 1. So the clone ID is set to 0. But as soon as we get into this loop, it's going to change that number to 1. And when it creates a clone, it will stamp that number 1 onto that clone. So, and then it'll move 60 steps, which is basically how far we have to move this little sprite over in order to show. So I'm going to do a little, when I start as a clone, we're going to show here. Now this is going to come later in the code, but just to simulate this, we're going to do a little show, and I'm going to tell my sprites to say their clone ID, to say the number that has been attached to them, just to demonstrate to you how this is working. So let me click the green flag here, and you can see that we've created 3 of these guys plus the 4th guy. That's the master object here. It's not the clone, right? So these guys, it's a little covered up here, but you can see that number 3 here is saying I'm number 3. The middle one is saying I'm number 2. And the first one who's covered up is saying I'm number 1 here. So that's good for the first couple of guys, but now we need to do another row. So as soon as we're done this loop here, what we're going to do is move our clone, our main object, the one that's making clones, we're going to move it back to the first row, which is at an X of 31. And then we're going to change our Y by minus 60, which will move us down to the next row. Now we basically want to repeat this all 3 more times because we want 9 slots here at the end. So I'm going to take all of this, so everything from the repeat on down, and put it inside a repeat 3 times. So you can see what's happening is it'll make the first 3, and then it'll go back to the beginning like a typewriter. It'll go chunk, 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 and then back to the beginning, then go down, and then it'll do this again, chunk, 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 and then it'll go back to the beginning, and then it'll go down again and do the last ones. So here we go. Let's try that out right now and see what that looks like. And there we go. So they've all appeared here, and they're all saying their ID number just like we wanted them to. And you can see the background is still hidden. These guys are going to have to be invisible when they're created, and that's another step we're going to have to add. Yeah, so what we want to do is remove this show from here. And now, when I start the program, they'll be hidden, right, until I click on the button here. And because I've covered up my little red X, I can't actually even get rid of this menu anymore. All right, we're going to get rid of this say clone ID. It was just there temporarily just to show you guys that each of these clones has its own ID number, starting with 1 and going all the way over. Okay, so our master copy is stuck at the bottom here, and it's just going to be creating trouble for us. So the last thing we're going to do here is we're going to set that clone ID back to 0 again. So as soon as we're out of this loop, we're going to set our clone ID back to 0 again. And that's going to make the ID for this master guy 0. And that will help us help the code figure out whether our guys are a master or a copy, because we don't want the master guy doing anything. We want him hidden. So what's going to happen here is when I receive open inventory, all these guys are going to get a show command telling them to be visible, except for the guy who's stamped with the number 0, who's our master. And that's what's going to keep this guy off of the list here. So now when I click my green flag and click on inventory, you can see only the 9 guys I created are here, and the master, who's down here, is no longer visible, and so we can't interact with him anymore. Okay, when I receive close inventory, it's going to close, so that part's pretty straightforward. Okay, so now we need to do a when I start as a clone. By the way, I should probably mention here, when I receive open inventory here, hello to Aiden TV Yu-Gi-Oh! I think this is Aiden, one of our longtime members. Every time I see him, he's renamed himself. So hi, Aiden. I'm not sure if you are the Aiden who's a longtime member of our club, but welcome. Kian says that the weapon is a morning star rather than a flail, he thinks. So, okay, I'm always getting those 2 weapons confused. Even though I did play Dungeons and Dragons as a kid, I should have remembered that. Okay, so when I start as a clone, we're going to do some stuff here. One thing I wanted to mention, and I've said this a few times before, but I want to say it one more time because it's really important. When I receive a message, like when I receive a broadcast, oh, that is Aiden. Hi, Aiden. Nice to see you again, buddy. When I receive a broadcast, that always applies to every single object, including clones. So this is the same as when I start as a clone, except it also affects the main object. So when I receive, basically affects all versions of a sprite. When green flag clicked will only affect the main object and not the clones. And when I start as a clone will affect only the clones and not the main object. So whenever you're working with broadcasts and receives here, you have to be really careful about whether you're affecting the clones or not. And that's why I put this special system in here to make the master guy a different ID number so that he wouldn't show up. All right, so when I start the clone, the first thing we're going to do here is just do a rollover effect. So you can see if I'm touching the mouse pointer, I'm going to set my brightness effect to -20, and then when I stop touching with the point of the mouse pointer, the else is going to be affected here, and it's going to bring it back to 0 again. So let me show you that again. So now, let me click the green flag. So now when I move my cursor over one of these guys, you can see that he turns darker all of a sudden. And that gives us a little visual hint that we're ready to click on this guy. And then when I click on him, that will arm my character with something. All right, let me just move along in the code here. All right, so there's one other thing we want inside the forever here. We're just going to tell our character to switch costume to the, oh, actually, we're going to get to that later because we actually have to update our list first. So let's put a pin in that, and let's move a little bit further down here. So the actual adding to the list part. So what we need to do now is we're going to be generating a random weapon for these slots, because remember, these slots are going to start empty. Well, they're going to start empty once we finish coding this. Right now, that list is full, right? Why didn't our list empty itself? Okay, so yeah, this will fix itself as we continue coding here, basically. But that variable has been set to the Morningstar variable for all these guys right now. I'm pretty sure the list doesn't have anything on it right now, though. Let's make that list visible. Yeah, the list still says empty because we haven't hooked up the inventory to our list yet right now. So right now it's just showing what that variable is in each case. So let's set clone ID back to, or set weapon back to 0. No, that's not going to fix it right now because we have to do it for each individual clone, eh? So when I click green flag, all right, so I know this all clears itself up as we continue coding here. So let's just carry on with what we're doing. Okay, so here's my actual creation system here. When I click the green flag, now if you're making your own RPG game, you're not going to want to give yourself a weapon every time you click X. This is just for simulating it. What you're going to want to do is have your character moving around, and when he steps on top of something or kills a bad guy, then you're going to do a weapon drop. I just wanted to simulate that with a keyboard event here. So I'm just going, if I press the X key, as soon as I let go of the key, when we're waiting until it's not pressed, then we're going to start doing the various things that we have to do to get the weapon names onto this list here. So what are we going to do? We're going to, so we're still inside the if statement here. I'm going to put these 3 blocks of code in here. It says start sound pop, set random drop to pick random from 2 to 5, and then it switches the costume to the number that matches whatever that random drop is. Now that is only affecting the main object here, right? It's going to switch its costume, but then when it creates a clone of itself, we're going to do something with the list that's going to make that match what the current costume is. It's a little bit confusing, but it'll make a bit more sense in a minute here. So I want my guy's costume back to empty, and I think if I restart here, yeah, okay. So it's just making copies of itself, and it's making copies based on whatever the current costume is, and that's why this inventory was messed up. All right, I'd forgotten how that worked. So let's just set it back to empty right now, so that our inventory is empty. We're going to be hooking this up to the list in a second, as I said, and then all of those problems will be solved. All right, so every time I click an X, it's basically going to change that variable, and and it's just going to pick a random number from 2 to 5. So it's not going to pick 1 because we don't want to pick an empty slot. So if it picks 2, then it's going to change the costume to the sword, right? Okay. So let's keep going here. Now we're going to do something with a temp variable. So we're just going to set a temporary variable, and I think this stays right underneath switch costume. So we're going to set a temp variable to 0, and this is just going to keep track of the number of times we've been around this loop. I've got a repeat until here that says repeat until item temp of inventory equals empty. So what it's going to do here is go through our list looking for the next item on the list that's empty, and that's how it's going to figure out where to put the inventory item. So right now it's automatically going to pick the first item on the list because that's where the word empty is. So it's just going to keep going around in a circle here, changing the temp by 1. So it's going to look at the first item on the list, then it's going to change temp to 2. It'll look at the second item on the list, and it'll stop when it finds the word empty. Fair enough. And so after it finds the word empty, we can evaluate that. So I'm going to put this inside the so outside of the repeat until here. So when it's done doing that, when it's done repeating, what it's going to do is replace item, now in this case 1, it's going to replace item 1 on the list with of the inventory list with the name of the costume that our main sprite is wearing. So if we switched our costume back here to sword, then it's going to add sword to the list here. And so let's give that a try right now. So when I hit the button X, hold it, replace temp. And what have I done wrong here? So item 1 of inventory, change temp. Oh, and this all has to be inside of forever. It is. Hold it. So something, it has to be nested inside this. So this has to be inside. All right, I've got something just a little bit out of alignment here because this one actually is inside the if statement here. So I think all of this has to go inside the if statement. Yeah, I've got this aligned improperly now. So if I hit the key X, all of this stuff is going to happen basically right down to this line here. Let's try that one more time. And when I hit X, there we go. Now I have a spear in my inventory right there in the first line. When I hit X again, it puts a sword. When I hit it again, now it has an axe. Oh, it's giving a much better mix here. And there's my flail. Okay, so everything's working the way that I wanted it to. Now, we don't want this to keep going and give us a 10th item in our inventory. So what I'm going to do is underneath change temp here, I'm adding a little if statement that says if that temp variable is greater than 9, then we're going to just stop this script. We're just not going to add anything to our inventory list at that point here. Now, we probably would need to add something at some point that would allow you to empty off your items and strip them, right? So we would probably just have to create another button or something, or a mode here that would allow us to click on something to remove it, and then we would put the word empty back onto this list again. All right, so this is pretty close to done here. Now you can see that it's that we've got our code going. When this sprite clicked, we're going to make a pop sound. And we're just going to tell the weapon to be. Oh no, this is not the spot where we're doing that. It's inside our weapon here. So our weapon variable has changed, and I showed you guys this before. We're just switching costume to whatever that weapon variable is here. I think I'm ready to go here. I just want to make sure that there's no other code here to lay down. Oh, and this is the last bit that I was going to say. So at the end here, we're going to switch costume to item number of inventory. And that is the actual last bit of code here that is going to when I started the clone. Okay, so this is what's going to, every time you create a clone, tell it to wear the right costume. I'm going to hide my list here, and we can just check this out. So let me clear off my list with a green flag. Now when I hit the X button, we populate this with a sword, and now when I click on it, it will know to arm our guy with a sword, which we can use for our attacks here. Nice. And every time I hit X, it's going to give him a different weapon here. Now, we, of course, don't need all these weapons because we only have 4 weapons and 9 slots, but I'm just kind of teaching you guys how this works. All right, I hope that makes sense to you guys. Anyway, so this is a really cool way that you can add an inventory. I really think that if you want to get into more advanced coding, you're going to have to do stuff like pop-up menus and stuff like this. If you want a game that's really sophisticated, you don't want something like your inventory system clogging up your screen. So a system like this, and you can use this as kind of a template for your own projects, will really help a lot with pop-up windows and configurable stuff. So I could have done a whole bunch of if statements for each individual slot, but you can see that what I've done here is a lot more elegant and uses very little code. And this is some of the stuff that I've been learning from working with this Minecraft code here, actually. So I just wanted to show you a little bit about what I've been learning lately in Scratch. Okay, so we're done with this segment. I wanted to move on to the next turbo tutorial. So you guys will remember that the turbo tutorials are a little segment where Connor, who's been working on these lately, shows you a little add-on to Scratch and how you can add to the functionality of Scratch. We've just recently discovered a whole new, I think it was SuperCannon20 who let us know about this add-on that's actually a Chrome add-on called, it's appropriately enough, called Scratch Add-on. And so you can add it to Chrome, and the really cool thing about it, it changes the way the entirety of Scratch works. So it has a lot of the functionality that we've been looking at in these turbo tutorials, but it works right inside the Scratch interface. So you can get like dark mode and onion skinning and a whole bunch of those other features that we've been looking at in turbo tutorials. And instead of having to do it outside of Scratch, we can actually do it inside the Scratch interface. So let me show you Connor's little segment right now.
Hey guys, I'm Connor, a co-op student at Chromeworks, with another episode of Turbo Tutorials. And this time, we'll actually be looking at another way to add on to Scratch. It's just called Scratch Add-ons. It is a Chrome extension instead of using a third-party website. So what you're going to want to do is just type in Chrome extensions. Once you're here, just type in Scratch Add-ons. And here it'll say add to Chrome, so you just want to click that. And once you have all that done, you can open up a new tab. And it should show up on the top right. But if not, since I have like other extensions to Chrome, you can click this puzzle piece and it'll be in here, Scratch Add-ons. So you can click that. And once you have this open, you can actually just click on the add-ons tab and look at the add-ons are here. Or you can actually like full screen this. So you can click the gear on the top right and it'll open the full screen mode. Now this should already look familiar. It works exactly like Turbo Warp. You can just scroll down and just turn on and off which add-ons you want on. Like here, the hex color picker. I've already explained this before, but you can just turn this on. We'll just turn on cat blocks just to show you how this website works. So once you have turned these on, you can just open up normal Scratch. We'll go to create new, and once you're here, I turn on the cat blocks, and as you can see, we have the cat blocks. And I also turn on the hex color picker, so yeah, if I go here, hex color picker is enabled. So what's great about this Chrome extension is it's not a third-party thing. You can just turn on which add-ons you would like and it'll apply it to the actual Scratch website. So instead of Turbo Warp being its own little thing and you have to save it on your computer, your game, and then upload it to the normal Scratch, you just have the normal Scratch here with the add-ons. And of course you can turn them on and off whenever you like. That is it for this episode. In the next few episodes we'll be looking at more add-ons through this Chrome extension and going into further depth in them. And other than that, make sure you check out the Chromeworks YouTube channel. And thanks.
Connor will be back next week with some more from that really cool Scratch add-on website. I've been using it myself lately. It seems rock solid. It hasn't caused any Scratch problems, and it just creates some really cool new functionality in the system. So I'm actually I was using Turbo Warp for a while, but now I've kind of switched over to this add-on because it has most of the same features as Turbo Warp, and I'm quite happy with it. Thane says he's used it as well, and he thinks it's awesome. So yeah, I would recommend if you're looking to up your Scratch game a little bit, you should look into installing this add-on because it does have some really handy features. All right, co-op student Ben is back again with his Time Traveler segment. You guys will remember Time Traveler is a segment where Ben goes back in time and looks at consoles from times past. This one was particularly dear to his heart because Ben had an Xbox 360 when he was growing up. So let's go back in time and have a look at the Xbox 360 right now.
How's it going, guys? This is episode 5 of Time Travelers, where we jump through time, taking a look at big consoles and the games that came out with them. Today, we don't actually have to go back that far, as the console that I teased in my last episode was only introduced back in 1995 in North America. That being the first ever PlayStation by Sony. But before we get into the episode, it's a tradition that I show you a song that came out during that time period. And here's a song that I finally recognize. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me.
Sorry, I apologize, guys. I had that set to the wrong location there, and we were looking at an older episode. So, apologies to Ben, and here is the proper episode of Time Traveler. Sorry about that, guys.
What's going on, guys? We're back with episode 6 of Time Travelers. Man, I can't believe we're on episode 6. It felt like just yesterday when we covered the Magnavox Odyssey. But today, we're doing one of the best consoles ever, and the one that I grew up with, the Xbox 360. And as promised last time, here's an Eminem song to start the video. So the Xbox 360, which came out in 2005, is one of the best-selling consoles of all time, selling over 85 million consoles as of 2021. And as of now, it's sold the most consoles out of any Microsoft console. And for good reason. The thing looks very similar to today's consoles. But it's still a little behind tech-wise, with the Xbox Series X having around 32 times more RAM. Still better than the 1 billion times less than the Magnavox Odyssey. The 360 also had Xbox Live, which allowed you to play with others online. Not that I had any friends to play with, but it was still definitely worth the $60 or something to pay per year, in my opinion. Now, the 360 came out in a few different versions, with a total of 1,300 different games available. Of these games are some of my most memorable games ever, like Minecraft,
day or night, rain or shine, because this is the most significant sandbox you'll ever set foot in.
Call of Duty, 24 of them exactly. My favorite one being the Black Ops series. Halo, the only shooter game I was allowed to play when I was younger. Assassin's Creed, all the way from 1 to Rogue.
I'm only visiting. I don't know what's going on.
It also had Batman, Skyrim, Dark Soul games, more GTA games, more FIFA games. It had so many other games too. So now that we've established that the 360 had the best games ever, there was also a way to play even without a controller. That being using a Kinect, an add-on for the 360.
Is for you. You are the controller.
Everybody keeps on listening and nobody's listening.
Introducing Connect for Xbox 360.
Which led to a lot of funny moments. But what's even better than the Kinect? The next episode, where we cover another console worthy of the title Best Console Ever. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you next time.
Well, thank you for that, Ben. So I'm sorry about the technical glitch there, and I'll try to be more careful about that in the future. So one more segment for us. As promised, Thane is back with Minecraft version 1.17. This is going to be a multi-part series here. He's going to be delving into this very long anticipated entry or update to the Minecraft game, which introduces all kinds of new functionality, and let's get right to that right now.
Have you ever wished? Well, actually, there's no wishing this time. You all already have a wish. Because today I'm showing 1.17. So stay tuned. Hi everyone, it's me Thane from the Chromworks Club. Today we're doing a Minecraft mod. No, not a Minecraft mod review, sorry. A Minecraft update with the new Caves and Cliffs update. I'm here to show you part 1 of showing off the Caves and Cliffs mod. This is part 1. Part 2 will be releasing next week. Anywho, let's get started. So, there are a bunch of different things here. I got 3 different things. Ores, goat, and axolotl or whatever. But these are the only things I'm going to show. Oh, and also, since I'm in vanilla Minecraft, there are no lucky blocks. So, sorry. So, I'll try to think of something else instead. Anywho, let's get started with the ores. There are different ores. Coal, iron, copper, gold, redstone, emerald, lapis, and diamond. And of course, this one's new. So, these are all new ores. I mean, this is a new ore, but they all have different looks now. I'm putting up a picture of the old ores, and then these are the new ores on the screen right now. So, anyways, there's also deep slate, coal, and all this stuff. I think the only difference between these is that these are harder to break. So, anyways, these are all used for the same purposes, but let me show you what copper is used for. Use copper for stuff, and if you leave copper out, there are different states. Here's different states: regular copper, exposed copper, weathered copper, and oxidized copper. Sort of like how the Statue of Liberty was made out of copper, but it turned green because of the oxide and stuff. So, anywho, moving on to the next thing, we have our goat. So our goat will jump over jump over fences. So the goat jumps really high. That's why I made this long thing. Like, I even made a really long one. I had to do it 3 more blocks high because it could jump over that one. But I don't think you're jumping out of this one this time, mister. Ha. Anywho, let me use the diamond pickaxe before stuff. Oh yeah. And iron, copper, and gold are all different. So iron, copper, and gold are all raw. So what's gotta happen is you gotta smelt this raw copper, iron, and gold to make to make regular stuff. So it's harder for iron, copper, and gold. So have fun doing that. Because now it's easier. Because now you have to smelt. You don't have to smelt blocks. You have to smelt actual iron. Anyways, moving on. We have the axolotl. Axolotls are water creatures, and I will also talk about them while I get rid of this stuff. Axolotls are water creatures. These. They come in 5 different colors, but I tried to find the best one that I couldn't. So anyways, these will kill any mob, and you can also pick them up with a water. They'll all turn out as the truth. Anyways, if you put it around you, it starts attacking. Sorry, look up, and we also talk hot of the game. Unless, of course, they're and then. So anyways, I don't have time for my so this is going to end the video. Anyways, thanks for watching. Sorry, no lucky blocks. Just because we're doing Minecraft. But anyways, stay tuned for part 2 of this one. And see you. And make sure to subscribe. Now, see you later. Bye!
Wow, some serious audio issues in that segment, Thane. So we're going to try and repair that. Well, I was talking to Thane about this a little earlier, and he could not figure out what the echo was that was going on in his segment. But we're going to.
Yeah, I thought rain.
Mm-hmm. I think I don't know what the rest of our viewers thought, but I thought that was really hard to hear at the end. So I'm not quite.
All your brothers and cousins. So.
Sorry.
There's a lot in my house.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so we're going to try and clear up those audio issues for next time because, yeah, that was just really, really hard to hear, buddy. Okay. I was, while the video was playing, I was showing, I was looking up this new fish mob that you were talking about. It's actually, I believe it's pronounced an axolotl, and it's native to South America. Let me show you right now. And this is what an axolotl looks like in real life. Its other name is a walking fish, apparently, and you can see that it actually has legs, so it's a bit of an evolutionary holdover, it looks like.
It's an amphibian.
Yeah, it's an amphibian, but you can see that it looks a lot like a fish in a lot of ways, but yeah, it is an amphibian, actually. Though it's actually called a walking fish. Interesting. Okay, guys, so that's about all we have for today. My Discord fans, I'm going to ask you to hold on a little bit after today's session because I wanted to have a brief meeting with you. The rest of you watching on YouTube, It was really nice again to see you. We're going to be back next week with part 6, the final climactic conclusion of Minecraft Tower Defense, where we meet the Ender Dragon. I'm very excited to bring that to you. And coming up in 2 weeks, we're going to be doing Super Smash Brothers by Ben. So excited to show you that too. Thanks for joining me, guys, and I will see you next